Okay, so we all know slide canceling is dead in Modern Warfare 2 and Warzone 2, but that does not mean movement is dead. And in today's video, we're going to be covering the advanced movement that you need to know that's going to help you outplay your opponents in both Modern Warfare ranked and Warzone ranked. We're going to cover the basic settings, we're going to get into some advanced movement, and then we're going to get into some things that are maybe a little bit exploiting of the movement mechanics that are going to help you shatter your opponent's camera, do some additional movement, and possibly get your gun up faster to win those critical gunfights. We're going to be covering things on both controller and keyboard and mouse, and I do want to shout out the sponsor of today's video, and that is SCUF. You guys know a lot of these movement mechanics aren't going to be possible without the paddles that I have on the back of the controller. Obviously, we have the niceties of the digital trigger and the beautiful design, but a lot of this, it's those paddles on the back that are making it possible so that way I can jump, slide, dive, and aim all without ever taking my thumb off the right stick. They are so confident in their new controllers, their next generation of controllers. They have upped their warranty from 6 months to 12 months and upped their money-back guarantee from 14 days to 30 days. I've been using the exact same controller, the IceManIsaac SCUF, that I have since it released last October. Haven't had any issues with it. JGod has been doing independent testing for things like stick drift. Hasn't had any issues. Now is the time, guys, especially if you're playing in, World Series of Warzone qualifiers, or you're grinding ranked and you want a little bit of an extra edge. The SCUF in your hands will definitely help. Okay, so before we get into the settings, I want to talk about slide canceling real quick because there's a huge misconception about what slide canceling is and why it was so important. So many people think, oh, I miss slide canceling. I want to be able to reset my tactical sprint. Who cares? Okay, we can do that already. Okay, when we sprint and the gun goes vertical, that means we're in a tactical sprint. And then it goes down. And people think I need to be able to slide, jump to reset it. No. Just dive. Boom. Tactical sprint is reset. Or melee. Tactical sprint is reset. Okay, the reason slide canceling was so important is it took us from a sprint to a stationary instantly. Okay. The reason that's so important is because of what's called sprint to fire. Okay. When we're sprinting, watch my right trigger here. Okay. I'll be really exaggerated for it. Watch how long it takes for that gun to start shooting after I press my trigger. Okay. So I'll sprint, trigger, and then it starts shooting. As opposed to if I'm walking, it's instant. Because what slide canceling did is it allowed us to sprint, slide. We are now in a sliding state. And then crouch, we would stop. We'd instantly stop, right? It would stop our movement completely. And then we could instantly start to fire because now we're no longer in a position where we have sprint to fire or slide to fire. We are completely stationary after that slide cancel. That for me was the value because it allowed us to sprint around a corner, keep that mobility, and then stop. And of course, you could stop your movement and then jump back and you would camera the crap out of people. But that was the real value. Infinity Ward has decided they don't want that. They don't want people getting cameraed and slammed around corners. Aggressive gameplay is getting punished. But there are some things, and we're going to talk about them here today, that are going to allow us to use that movement, but unfortunately not to the level of slide canceling. Okay, so one thing we got to know off the bat, sliding is basically useless in this game. I think there's been like 2 sliding kills in all of the CDL season, and basically the only time I see it being useful in Warzone is sometimes if you're running down like a narrow stairway, you actually get quite a bit of speed boost off of that slide. And so it can kind of be useful there. But outside of that, because you can't shoot while you're sliding, watch the trigger. Sliding's basically dead. Okay, so let's go over the settings with all of that in mind. So we're going to be covering controller. I'll have one setting for keyboard and mouse that you need to change as well. So first and foremost, just go to the controller settings. We're going to go over to horizontal stick sensitivity. Use something that you can be dynamic with, okay? Most people suggest starting at 6.6.8 default or Black Ops. I don't think it makes much of a difference. And then dynamic. This is going to allow us to turn fastly. We're going to get a lot of pull off of rotational aim assist because the dynamic aim assist can turn extremely fast. But we can be dynamic and we can be accurate. Okay, start with that if you're struggling to find a sensitivity. Then maybe bump it up if you're feeling a little bit more cracked. Just don't be like the YY TikTok kiddies who throw it 2020 unless you want to be. If that's you, be you, but don't try to replicate that if you're struggling to find a good sense. Okay, from there we're going to move over to automatic sprint for the exact reasons we talked about earlier. We're going to have automatic sprint off. The reason being, if we get caught with our gun up, it's going to take us so long to get the gun down while we're trying to clear out buildings. So unless you know someone is in that right corner and you're calling it out and you're swinging wide, you want it off so that way you can do things like clearing out buildings a little bit more, intentional. And then when you want to sprint, you click forward only one time. The reason you only have to click forward one time is in your settings, we may have automatic tactical sprint off, but over in our advanced, what we have is single tap run. Single tap run makes it to where I only have to tap it one time and then my gun comes all the way up. The last thing that you want is you're in the middle of a close gunfight. All you need is one extra tap to get this guy killed, but then you get your gun up into this really long sprint to fire animation and you can't get it down in time to win that gunfight. Turn it off in Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2. It's going to get you killed. Okay. Also, all the grounded mantles. Turn all those off. You're going to auto mantle on accident. With the paddles on the back of the SCUF, you can mantle as you need. You might need to press X twice, but it doesn't matter because you're just squeezing a paddle. You're not actually taking your thumb off the joystick. Okay. Other thing we're going to change before we get over into that other stuff, we're going to make sure we have prioritize interact. The reason we want prioritize interact on is it's going to allow us to tap one single time, and that will allow us to pick up guns, to open doors, to pick up kill streaks. So when we're doing things like, shutting the door and doing some, advanced movement, it's going to allow us to interact quickly as opposed to holding. Okay. When you need to reload and you got a door in front of you, all you have to do is hold and you reload. This may end up getting you killed. You may end up dropping out of a helicopter accidentally while you're trying to reload or jumping out of a vehicle accidentally, but you'll learn it. But it's really important you have that set. Okay. And then finally, the final settings that we're going to change is you're going to go down to advanced. Keep scrolling all the way down. You can set your dead zones however you want. That's all a personal setting. I have mine set all the way to 0.3. I could probably throw them lower. You can see here, I don't have any issues with stick drift, but I can just make the absolute tiniest adjustments because the dead zones are set so low. Okay. The final settings that we're going to change go all the way down to the bottom. We're going to make sure that we have plunge freely set. That's basically going to allow you to where wherever you look is wherever you dive, and then invert your slide and dive behavior. This one is so incredibly important. Okay. The reason it's important is sliding is dead. As we mentioned earlier, when I slide, it takes me forever to get my gun up and shoot. But what is important is diving. So let's say I'm in a gunfight down here and I see 3 people swing me and I want to get under cover quickly. All I have to do is tap one time as opposed to holding the dive, which is how it normally is. Okay, so make sure you have inverted set so that way you can dive quickly and get behind cover. And it's really useful in Warzone because there are a lot of times where I'll try to jump off something and I can't pull my chute. But if I use a single tap dive, I can dive off it really quickly and get my chute out in time. Sliding is dead, so let's go ahead and use that fast tap to make sure that we're getting a dive instead of a slide. Now, this brings up the mouse and keyboard real quick. This is the one benefit that mouse and keyboard has, okay? So with mouse and keyboard, what I do is I go over into our settings. I go into keybinds, and it defaults to change stance is Control or C. Don't do that, okay? Make sure you have one bound for prone and one bound for crouch or slide, and I'll show you why. Okay, when you have that, instead of being prone and it goes prone, crouch. Okay, what this allows you to do is now the millisecond that you press your prone, which I have prone bound to one of my mouse buttons, it will slide or it'll instantly dive. As opposed to on controller, it's waiting to figure out when you release. So on controller, if you hold, it'll go crouch and then prone. But if you tap, it'll dive. So technically, it's not tap to dive on controller. It's tap and then release to dive. So how fast you dive depends on how fast you release your dive or your circle on controller. So it is a little benefit that you have on mouse and key. If you want to change that around, I would go ahead and do that as well. But let's go ahead and get into the advanced movement, okay? Like I said, we're going to start off with a little bit of basic stuff first, and then we're going to get more and more advanced. So hang through the process because you need to know some of these fundamentals to make sure you get all the way to the really advanced stuff. Okay, so the very first one is going to be the jump shot challenge. The reason this is important is because it allows us to use Peeker's advantage to see our opponent first before they see us. Okay, now obviously I'm going to do an entire video on Peeker's advantage and netcode, and we'll get into the weeds there. But for now, what you need to understand is when you play aggressively in this game, you will see someone before they see you. Okay, the way that I use this is I use my right paddle on the back for jump, which allows me to jump and then turn at the same time, I'm never taking my hand off the right thumbstick. So I'll sprint, I'll jump, and that allows me to challenge someone aggressively. Now, there is a jump to fire penalty in this game, meaning that when I jump, it takes longer to start shooting, okay? It sucks. That's part of the reason we miss slide canceling. So we have some alternative things that we can be doing. You guys know what a basic drop shot is, okay? And I'm going to teach you 2 variations of it, okay? So we know the basic drop shot is we just hold circle and it brings us to the ground. The reason it's valuable is while your opponent's aiming at you, you drop and you have to follow them down, causing you to miss a couple shots, okay? So what we can do is, instead of challenging that corner aggressively, what we can do is, if we're shouldering, right? And this is part of the reason of not having, you know, auto attack sprint on, is we're not having our gun come up every single time. If we're sitting here, we can kind of shoulder, and if we both know that person's there, guess what? They're going to be pre-aiming at my head. But what I can do is I can push forward, and then as I challenge, I drop shot, which basically will make it look like I should be pre-aiming at this guy's head, but then all of a sudden, he chows me down here, and he's got an easy shot on me, and then now I don't see him, right? Okay, the other thing that we can do, that's more like strategic stuff, right? And I saw a lot of that stuff. I'll throw some clips up here if I can find them, is like in the Shotzzy versus Aiden 1v1. Like, these are players with incredible gun skill, right? We're talking, you know, best in the world, top 500 players in the world, top 200 players in the world probably, including all the challenger players. Like, Aiden's really talented. They would use that because they knew where they were, and they both have incredible centering. They're aiming at each other's head, and now all of a sudden Aiden comes around on the floor with his, you know, D in the dirt, and he's getting free kills because Shotzzy's expecting him to be higher. Okay, there's not a lot of movement in the game, so you can use that as a movement. But one kind of like advanced movement tactic that we'll talk about right now. So we have the, you know, basic drop shot, right, which we just talked about. But there's also something that you can do, especially if you're on mouse and keyboard, is the instant drop shot. I've heard people say you can do this on controller. I can't replicate it on controller. So if you know, down below, I'm going to give your comment a heart. If you know how to instant drop shot on controller, please let me know. I know for a fact how I do it on mouse and key is because we have that button set to prone that we did in our keybinds earlier. Okay, so the way you do this on mouse and key is you're going to be sprinting forward, right? In any normal gunfight, going to clear out buildings, doing what you're doing. As you're holding W, you are going to release W and then instantly press prone. It's got to be quick, okay? So what it's going to look like is you're going to release W and press prone. Okay, and it might seem like, that was a little fast on my screen, but it doesn't seem too different than this, right? No. On the enemy screen, it's jarringly fast, okay? So you're going to hold W, release W, prone. And it's got to be quick, so W prone. Can't be too fast, otherwise you'll dive. But it's release prone, and you fly to the floor. I don't know how to replicate this on controller. What I do know how to replicate on controller is something called the drop hop, or, you know, the burpee, or whatever the heck you want to call it. It's disgusting. It's what happens after. And I'll put all this up on the screen so that way you guys can like screenshot it. So we have the instant prone. Once again, I think this is only on mouse and key. Kind of a little thing up here. You can try it on your own in a practice lobby with your friends. Take a screenshot. If you are taking a screenshot and you appreciate the value, make sure you're subscribed. But there's something called the drop hop that's probably even more deadly. Okay. What the drop hop is after you've drop shotted, a player is going to correct their aim down to try to get shots. Okay. But then what you do is you double tap jump. And on your end, it looks perfectly normal. But on their end, it looks like this. Okay, so it's a drop into a hop. So your aim is going to try to track up top. It's going to try to track down. And then in a frame, I'll show it in slow-mo. You're literally going to teleport up. And your hitbox for the head went from here to up here. So I'll show it fast. If this guy's trying to get involved in a gunfight, it would be, oh crap, we ran into each other. And the gunfight's over. You go from shooting him at his head down low to now shooting in between his legs or under his legs while he drops. Okay, how you do it: full prone, double press jump. Easiest to do, obviously, if you have the SCUF. I do my left paddle once, my right paddle twice, and it doesn't look that jarring on your end, but man, does it bust cameras on their end. All right, hey, future Isaac here. I just witnessed something absolutely foul. So I've been working on this movement guide for a while, been working on all the assets, and then I just saw a clip of Symphony combining the instant drop shot with the drop hop multiple times on mouse and key. And it's a little crazy, but just imagine what this looks like from the enemy's perspective, and Warzone movement just got pretty dang terrifying.
Hit him. On me, bottom. I'm coming. Wait, you hit on them? One more. The tags, Mason. Outside, last one. Put in.
Oh my god, FIFA. I did it.
Okay, so one of the other advanced movement mechanics that we can use is actually affecting how the dive mechanic works. Okay, the way the dive mechanic works, and the reason it's basically useless in a gunfight, is look at my triggers. I can't shoot while I'm diving. But the way the logic of the dive works is it waits until you make contact with the ground again, and that resets the timer for when you can begin to shoot. So if someone was here, we wouldn't want to dive and then shoot at them. Or let's say there was someone, you know, or trying to shoot at this guy. I wouldn't dive over the ledge and then try to shoot him because my body doesn't touch the ground until I hit here. But what you can do, and this is something I'm trying to incorporate into my game, I'm trying to get better at it, is you can do basically what's called a ledge reset, where when you dive, you tap the ledge, and now, because I tap that ledge, I use the dive mechanic to move faster, to be more evasive, to travel more distance laterally. But now because I touch that edge, I can start shooting faster as opposed to me waiting until my feet actually hit the ground, or rather I, in this case, belly flopped on the ground and started shooting. You can use this all across the map. There's so many different places that you can be using it. Any ledge basically that you can use, you can get on there. There used to be a mechanic that you could use that was like a ledge hop, where you would jump on a ledge and then you'd press jump. You can kind of do it, but it's not nearly as reliable as it used to be. So I'll show kind of what it looks like from this perspective, where you can dive on a ledge and then you're trying to basically bunny hop off of it. You can't really, you used to actually like b-hop a significant distance, but Infinity Ward saw that and were like, ooh, yeah, no, that's advanced movement. Yeah, no, that needs to go. Sorry. So that's gone. What isn't gone is something I call the G-hop, gravity hop. There's probably a better name for it, but I'll have to probably pull it onto Warzone to show you. But when you jump off a high height and you hit the ground and you take fall damage, if you jump, the moment that you take fall damage, you actually will get a speed boost. And a lot of times you can use this as you're jumping off a ledge. And this ledge isn't high enough. I'll show you a clip of what it looks like over in Warzone. Okay, so Future Isaac here with a little bit better of an example. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this little drill charge on the ground. And that dark spot is going to be our starting point, okay? If I were to just try to regular jump and bunny hop, you'll see I barely make it anywhere. This is a really fast movement speed in P5. And I'm just not covering any ground, right? But what we can do is we can use the gravity as we fall. That's why I call it a G-hop. If there's a technical name for this, please let me know. And we'll aim for that dark spot on the ground, but then watch. Okay, I'm going to jump. It helps even more if you aim down sight. So go ahead and start aiming down sight as you're doing this. I'm going to sprint, jump, aim down sight. You can see now I've made it double the distance. But this effect goes even farther the higher up that you go. So we know that if we go over 13 meters, we're going to break our ankles, right? So I think right here might be the absolute limit, but we're going to give it a test and see. Whew, that might have been a little bit too far. Because basically what happens is we go from a wide trajectory then to a straight down trajectory. So what we want to do is try to capture it when we're moving the most laterally, and then let that influence our bunny hop, and then just look at all that distance that we just covered. But you can use that speed boost, that lateral speed boost, to shatter someone's camera, because you take the fall damage momentum, throw your body sideways, and you need to be falling, hit jump as you land, and you'll dip off to the side, and it's a pretty cool mechanic. Okay, the final movement mechanic that you need to know is called snaking. Okay, and this is used by every pro in the CDL. It's used constantly in Warzone, and It's such a boring mechanic. I hate it, but you need to learn it, okay? So what snaking is you go from, let's say I'm on this head glitch, right? And we'll have our opponent pretty deep, right? This guy's trying to shoot us off this head glitch. What you do is you hold back and you prone, and then you sprint forward, and you hold back and you prone, and you sprint forward, hold back, prone, sprint forward. Okay, and what this is doing on our end, notice how like we can constantly see where that player is, right? Notice how like we can always keep an eye on that black helmet, that black vest, and know like, all right, that's what this guy is up to. Okay, on his end, what it looks like is this. Okay, let's say he's in the opposite position now. He's on this head glitch. Okay, pulling out the Dr. Disrespect SCUF because this move is absolutely disrespectful. Okay, let's say I'm back here and I want to rip this guy off this head glitch. Okay, what it looks like from our perspective, if I was just crouching and proning, and that's still not the worst thing to do. If I was just crouching and proning, that would be better than just standing here on the head glitch trying to get ripped off. But what it looks like on their end is, once again, reverse and crouch. And I'm using this as my paddle. So I have the rear paddle that's allowing me to crouch and then sprint forward. What it looks like at full speed on that end, you can see on my end, I'm able to constantly see the player. On your end, all you're seeing is just a little tip of my head coming up and over. And then when you start to throw in strafes, you'll notice instead of just straight back and then sprint forward, I'll start to throw in some strafes. And then just imagine how difficult this would be to shoot if all of a sudden now I've got someone who's not only snaking me, but strafing me. And I'm a dirty Warzone kid. I'm not even a ranked sweat. But like the people that are doing this extremely fast and really have their reps in, dude, it's so hard to hit and it's so annoying. And what they'll wait until you're like trying to shoot them. They'll know that you're out of ammo, and then when they know that you're out of ammo, they'll come up and challenge you. Or they'll play the defuse on the bomb. It's just really obnoxious. So basic version, as you can see up on the screen, is back up and crouch, prone, and then sprint forward. If you want to get more advanced, okay, you back up and you start to throw some strafes in there. The reason we back up is we're trying to create space so that way we're not just right against this, but then we can just start. A lot of people do circles with their left stick as they do it. Me personally, I just focus on going forward and back, and that's all you need. It doesn't need to be perfect. The point of this is just to constantly keep an eye out on my enemy. He can't see me, and then all of a sudden I can come up and challenge him, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed this. We spent a lot of time building these extra assets so you can take a screenshot. Shout out again to SCUF for sponsoring this video, because so much of this, especially when you get into snaking, would be such a pain to try to do without a paddle in your hand, right? Because you would constantly be taking your hand off the stick, or you'd be doing a claw, which is extremely uncomfortable. Okay, shout out to them. I love the controller. I've got my own design. Check out the link in the pinned comment and in the description if you want to check it out. If you enjoyed all the effort that we put into this video and giving away some of the little cheesy stuff that not a lot of people talk about, like the prone hop or the ledge hops, like, drop a like on this video. Subscribe for even more, because we have even more Modern Warfare ranked and Warzone ranked content coming in the near future. Hope you guys enjoyed. Catch you all in the next one. Peace.